Welcome to the Home and Garden Leaders podcast. This is the second episode that we are recording, and today we have a special guest. We have Gustav Sehested Larsen from møbelkompagniet.dk. Not 100% sure if I pronounced that properly, to be honest.
Oh, it was actually quite good, yeah.
Okay, nice. My Danish skills are quite rusty.
Okay.
Cool, Gustav. So really happy to have you here. Basically, what we'll do here is we'll talk about your personal professional history as well as the story of your company, just so people can learn from it and derive insights. So that being out of the way, let's get right into it. So what was your personal background before starting to work in the company or on the company?
Well, I don't really have that much experience from before this. I just finished gymnasium here in Denmark. I don't know what kind of level you...
It's the same in Germany.
Okay, yeah. And I took a sabbatical year, and I got a job as a teacher's helper or whatever you call it, and for half a year. And then I got a small job in an IT company, and just to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, if I wanted to go into university or whatever. And it actually just evolved from there. I got a new position almost every 6 months at that company, and I was like a team lead in a service department in that IT company. So I kind of ran the operations in the service department with about 45 people in that department. And then two of my good friends, they started a small furniture company around the same time that I started in the IT company. And when I had been there for like 3 years or something, they actually called me up and asked me if I wanted to be the head of their customer service department, because they had a massive growth over a few years, and they had just gotten an investor as a part of the company, and so they could expand even more. And then they needed someone to take care of their service department. So yeah, I got that, and I had that position for almost a year, not quite. And then one of the founders, one of my still best friends, he actually decided to leave the operations and just be a part of the board. And when he left, he was the CEO at the time. They bumped me up to like a head of operations. So I had the complete overview of logistics and our warehouse and distribution as well. And then our customer service, as I started with. And then we had an intermediate CEO for like half a year. And then they had this small process. They didn't actually have a process, but the chairman, he decided that I was the best fit for taking over the position permanently. And then, so now here I am. I don't really have any experience with furnitures, actually. I'm still trying to learn it. I've only been in the company for 2 years last month. So it's been quite busy since then. And so I mainly focus on strategic movements, I guess you could say, or actions. I don't know what's the best English word for it. And try to make sure that all the people that we have in the company are having a good time as well. We're a very young company, so we focus a lot on having fun so that's kind of my small, I've only worked for 6 years or something.
Interesting. So how was the transition like from the operating position to the chief executive position? How is it like? Because you're right in the middle of it, right?
Yeah, it was quite intense, actually. In the beginning, I actually didn't think it was for me, because I've always seen myself more of an operations guy. But our very good chairman, he had a lot of faith in me. I could feel it, and as well as the other members of the board. So I kind of took that into account, and I was like, okay, let's see what I can do. And it's been fun. It's been okay. I still find myself sometimes maybe putting too much energy into operations still. Maybe times where it's not where we have other people that actually might do it better than me now. But just because it's the way I'm used to do it. But it's getting more and more fun, and I can feel it more and more. It's like, okay, I have to take a step back from the operations and focus on, okay, what comes next, and just not tomorrow, but for the next 2 years, maybe, if not more. So it's been a tough transition. I've had to learn a lot in the last few months. I've only had this position for since February, so not that long.
And how old is the company?
The company was founded in 2016, and it was founded in a small warehouse with no isolation or whatsoever. So in a very cold corner of like a laboratory, actually, almost. And they started selling, like reselling returned items from other big furniture companies here in Denmark. So they would actually take their return goods and sell them in the small warehouse. No web shop, nothing. Only, I actually don't really know how they did it. I think maybe they just advertised it organically through Facebook. I don't really recall, actually. And then in 2017, they got in touch with some of the suppliers that they actually got return goods from, or some of the suppliers that produced these goods that the other sellers were taking in from them. Yeah, they were taking it from. And then they actually started the web shop in 2017. I don't remember exactly when. And from there on, it got speed under. It went fast from there. Yeah.
Interesting. So what would you say makes the furniture you're selling unique? Why do people buy from you instead of buying the sofas elsewhere?
That's actually a very good question, because when we started the company, or not when we did, but when they did, and till like maybe last year, something like this, it was more, we kind of took all the same items as a lot of other sellers here in Denmark, both e-commerce as well as physical stores. We sold the same items as them. So it's more about price. And then we kind of slowly took another direction into more of like unique items that we had sold rights on. We still have some items that other sellers also sell, but are focusing more and more on these unique things. And we kind of looking at some of our big competitors, some maybe 100 times bigger than us. And we're looking at what kind of trends right now. We don't want to be first movers, but we want to be early adapters to these trends. And then we get the items produced that we can see, this should probably sell very good, and then we do it for like 1/4 of the price sometimes, and the same quality as well. So we have we have a slogan, but not one that we kind of advertise, but it's like everyone should be able to afford and is the worthy home, basically. So you want to have furniture in your home that you'd like to share on your Instagram or whatever, because they're pretty and as well as affordable. So that's what should make it unique. And we have a very strong content set up. So we have like almost 3 people that solely focused on content. It's more like 2.5 maybe. So that we can kind of create these nice environmental pictures that the people can take inspiration from, and they kind of feel a bit more like a designer themselves. And it doesn't have to be expensive. That's like the whole point of it. Because quality-wise, I think some of our furnitures are just as good as some of the more and more expensive ones we can.
Very interesting. Got it. So it's basically price as well as not being first, but kind of spotting the trend early. Because if you create a trend yourself, I think it's just a very different mental exercise, I feel like. You just have to invent something and then just hope people are going to buy it to an extent.
Yeah.
So it's very good structure you guys are having. So it's interesting. So what was the reason behind the founders starting the company?
They actually just wanted to see if they could go, solo, I guess you could say. Like they want just to live paycheck to paycheck right out of, they were pretty young when they started. They were 20 years old, I guess. So one of them just finished he was a electrical something, automatic, something. I actually don't know the English title, but the other one he was a sales assistant or something. And they just really had this drive to kind of go the entrepreneurial way, I guess. So it wasn't really like there wasn't a main focus on furnitures. It wasn't like they didn't have any relationship with furnitures before they started the company. They just saw like a small open market in Denmark, and they seized the opportunity, and it's gone okay so far.
So once you went online with the store and everything, what would you say were some of the initial challenges that the company / the business faced and overcame?
I think one of I remember talking to the old CEO about this actually, because we actually just talked about it this weekend, I think. one of the major thing was that the first time that when they launched the website, they didn't get an order for maybe 3 weeks. And the first time they got an order, they didn't know how to ship it. So they ended up actually driving themselves. And I think that they lost money on the first orders in the beginning. They were very excited. It was like, okay, let's just get this out and see what it brings, and then we'll figure it out afterwards. So I remember before I was hired, I was helping them delivering sofas in a trailer in the middle of the night almost. We just drove all over Denmark, and I did that a couple of times. And after that, I think they bought a small van, and every Sunday, the CEO, he would drive to, like, Denmark is like split in 3 parts, there's Jutland, there's Fyn, I don't know how you say it in English, and then there's Zealand. And every Sunday he would drive over to Zealand because it was far away from where the company started. And he would just deliver sofas from 4 a.m. to 3 a.m. the next day. And then he would drive home and begin working again at 6 a.m. At the office. So it was like, yeah.
Wow, pure willpower. Interesting.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
No accidents with the low sleep driving? All good?
All good. I think I don't recall anything. No. I think there was other things to worry about at the time. So even if there was any problems like that, it was not a big problem.
Yeah, I think back then there were also no easy to access sort of shipping suppliers, from what I can recall. I'm not 100% sure either, but now you have all these warehouses, for example, in Germany, where you can just send them the goods. And they just ship it for you. You don't have to, in theory, you don't even have to see the inventory. I mean, you obviously should, but it's interesting how quick this e-commerce space developed overall, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then in what situation is the company now?
Do you mean compared to all the price changes and?
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Actually, quite good. We had a rough start. I'm going to be honest about that. No, we had a good January. Actually, it was above last year, and last year was very bloated. So it's like this bloated year because of the virus. So we had a good year. We didn't have any physical shops, so it was our e-commerce was booming, and January as well was okay. January usually is. And then we hit February, and we decided to make a small change in our setup. So we kind of took it down a bit on the marketing spend, and we changed our image. So we got a new logo for our website. We actually got a completely new design on our website, so it looked a bit more quality. And then we did that for 4 months, and we could see that our revenue wasn't where we wanted it to be. So we kind of took it. Oh yeah, we also got all the price changes, of course, from all the war. So all the wood went up, and foam as well, and everything. And delivery from China we don't really get much from China, but the small things that we did, like chairs, did take some time, and it hurt on the freight expenses. So it was a boring 4 months from February to May. And we also kind of, back in February, also changed our marketing strategy a bit on how we produced our campaigns and when we published them and so on. So when we got to June or in the end of May, we decided to kind of take it a step back maybe, and we tried to negotiate a bit with our suppliers, and we got some better prices again. And we took a step back on the marketing strategy, tried to do it the old way, even though we had a new image. And we instantly saw an improvement, and now we are above last year. Yeah, from June to now, we are off index 100. So it's good again.
Those marketing changes, basically, was that the way the creatives were designed? Was that the spend? What were the things that you changed?
Yeah, both spends, and instead of doing, for example, if we used to do, sometimes we would do weekend sales, and weekend sales was always good for us. Mm-hmm. But we decided to maybe try to do this where once there's summer sales, and then it lasts for maybe 1 or 2 months. We tried to do that instead, and we could see that the urgency feeling wasn't really there from the customers. So we kind of stopped with that and went back to more weekend sales and this kind of campaign. So it's maybe a shorter time span that the campaign is actually active instead of these long that was the big thing. And we also reduced the spend as well. So we set a maximum for our spend, and that wasn't very good.
Yeah, we noticed this too. We have some bigger clients where they have finance director and then he approves the ad budget. So you can't really, sometimes there's these opportunities to just pop up, right? You find like a specific ad that just works much better than the others for some reason. Or what we've seen too sometimes is, and this just randomly happens, there's no way to control it. If it happens, it really needs to be exploited, I think, where the competitiveness on the platform just drops drastically, right? The auction competition. And then you can't really exploit that as a marketer because the budget doesn't, like maybe you already spent like 80% of the month's budget and it's the last week or something like this, right? So you can't really do these quick changes that sometimes are really appropriate because it's so measurable, especially the auction competition bit, right? It just is visible on a lot of platforms. So it's usually a quite nice lever. So it's tricky to not be able to exploit it because you see the competition go down and you think you should spend more, but you can't basically.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting situation always. Yeah, that makes sense. So now it's like, is it still a fixed budget you're working with, or is it more flexible there as long as your marketing team sees the bottom line improve? They're fine with, and they have the good to go to increase the spend? Or how does it work?
It's more flexible now. It's like we basically just we work with the POAS, which is profit on ad spend. So we'd say we want to have at least for every 1 Danish krone that we spend, we want to earn 2 kroner. And as long as that is fulfilled, you can there's no limit to your spend. So now we actually have trouble keeping up with we didn't forecast for this much. Yeah, that's how we do it. So we use POAS.
Makes sense. Gotcha. Yeah. You've also seen that there, like if you look at return on ad spend, I think it's a bit too binary, right? Because you can just see, we get like a great return on ad spend, but we're not spending anything maybe. And then you can get a worse, quote unquote, return on ad spend. And then overall, you can be much more profitable that way in theory as well. Right? So it's an interesting game. Yeah. So what would you say is the current vision of the company?
Well, in 14 days, we are going live, or not the 14th day, the 1st of October. We are going live we're expected to be on the 1st of October. I probably should say that, yeah. We're going live in Germany, actually. So that's...
Oh, nice. That's great.
Yeah.
I know where to buy my next sofa from there.
Yeah. So that's the main focus right now. And then from there, we will probably look into other. Yeah.
It should be in terms of supply chain. I think it's quite easy, right? Because it's neighboring country. Any sort of super obvious challenges, right? It's not like the UK where it's third-party country, right? A country that's not part of the European Union. And then you get all these issues with customs. Maybe more from the UK to the European Union, not the other way around. But yeah, that's good to hear. Great. And then do you have any specific countries in mind that you'd like to get into?
Yeah, I have some. We discussed Norway when we talked about Germany. So the Danes here are pretty good at just going into Norway and Sweden. But we felt like, okay, that would kind of be the limit. So we would have to go up and then later go down because the expansion possibilities down from Denmark is just infinitely bigger. And I think we haven't really discussed anything, but something like France could be funny. Maybe the Netherlands, Belgium, something like this. Yeah.
Great. And then what would you say, like, were the biggest challenges when working on getting Germany live? What would you say are they, right? Because it's not live yet.
Well, the biggest issue, actually, funny enough, is getting a phone number in Germany. That's so difficult. And because you have to have a German address to own a phone number in Germany. And we're not going to start with any physical locations, not a warehouse. We're going to ship everything from Denmark. So that's a big issue. And we still haven't quite figured out yet if we want a local German phone number. We can buy one through Skype, but we're not sure it sends the right message to the Germans. So, that's the biggest issue.
It sounds like a very German problem to me.
Other than that, it's actually everything has went smoothly so far. We'll probably see some of the bumps when we go live. But Yeah, I think logistics has been quite easy dialogue with a couple of people, and I think we have some different choices, some from Denmark, some from Germany. Prices are a bit more expensive than they are in Germany, in Denmark, because of the area that they have to cover. But other than that, it's actually quite okay. Yeah.
It's so funny that it's the phone number.
Yeah.
It's also, I used to have a German company and doing your taxes here and dealing with the tax office. It's completely different than other countries from what I've heard so far, because they don't do email and you can't really speak to them. So you just get a letter every once in a while just telling you what they need, and with some fine maybe as well if you're late with a payment. And that's it. But you basically can't talk to anyone. You just get physical mail.
Wow.
Denmark is probably different, right? I think it's much more digitalized already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Must be nice. So what would be an interesting story that you would like to share with everyone who's listening?
Oh, interesting story. Oh, that's a good question, actually. Okay, yeah, I guess you could say, I think one of the interesting, but this only applies to Denmark for now, I think. But one of the interesting things is that we always outsourced our logistics, our distribution. And then we had some complications with one supplier once. And I think we started our own setup. I'm not going to go into details specifically because it's a bit boring, but we actually managed to save a whole 30% or something on our distribution setup just by doing it ourselves.
Yeah,
that's, I don't know if it's funny, but it's, if someone's out there listening and they have to deal with large packages and like sofa sizes or something like that, and look into doing it yourself when it comes to distribution. It takes some time to crack the code, but once you do, you can save a lot of money. And you'll hire your own internal people, which always contributes to the culture in the company.
Yeah.
Always been a benefit, a positive thing.
Is it something that you would say categorically makes sense, or would there have to be a certain sort of like revenue number or cost number for the shipping where it really starts to make sense and be worthwhile for people?
Yeah, I think it probably depends on the size of, the area that you have to deliver in. For Denmark, it was quite easy because it's not the biggest country. It's not nearly as big as Germany. So for Germany, you probably have to be a lot bigger than we are. That's why we, when we start in Germany, or for a long time out in the future, we'll probably outsource this to different companies in Germany, because they can cover all of Germany, and we don't really have to think about finding small couriers around in Germany and making contracts with them or something like this. So yeah, there's probably a size to it. It depends on your delivery. When do you want to deliver the time? So if you want to deliver in every postal code every day, then you probably have to have a certain size. Then you should probably have a size like us. If you deliver only in Denmark, for example. But if you only want to deliver every Friday in a certain postal code, then you can be smaller, I guess. So it depends very much on your KPIs. Yeah,
or for one region with yourself, right, where the most volume runs through, and then the other ones have a supplier that you're using, so you don't have to solve that then.
Yeah.
So what would you say are the three sort of key takeaways that you like to share with everyone?
Oh, damn. 3 key takeaways.
Yeah, it can be one. We can get started with one and then add more as we go.
Okay. Employees first, always. It's I know it's cliche, but honestly, it works. Pay them okay or well, depending on what they demand. Make sure they develop when they are at work, and make sure they're comfortable while they're there as well. That would be like number one. Yeah, it always pays back. Be honest to your partners, suppliers, whatever. Give them as much insight as you can, transparency, and that counts for your employees as well. I think it's always very good. It works, and it shows that you are not afraid to let your guard down.
It also builds a lot of trust, right, with everyone?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it builds trust. And then I have a last one. Make sure that you have money in the bank account, or else, yeah.
Makes sense, yeah. We have a really nice banker with low interest rates.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Perfect. Great. Yeah, good talking to you. And maybe we record another session in the future at some point in a couple of years or something, see how everything's going, right?
Sure.
Awesome. Great having you. And yeah, thanks for taking the time for this and sharing all these insights with everyone.
No problem.
Okay.